Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shri Zahir, Dean of the Carlson School of Management. And thank you all so much for joining us again for First Tuesday. For many years now, First Tuesday has been one of the longest running business gatherings in Minnesota. Since the beginning of the pandemic, however, we've expanded our audience to include our global community. And so we're so happy to be able to share our speakers with Carlson School alumni and friends worldwide. So before we move on to our program, I'd like to thank and recognize two of our long-standing corporate and media sponsors, Wells Fargo and Twin Cities Business. A special thank you as well to the many Carlson School and University of Minnesota supporters who are joining us today. As many of you know, we recently completed the Driven campaign, where the Carlson School raised close to $190 million that will go to support students, faculty, experiential learning, and a reimagination of our facilities. So this support that comes from our donors has helped the Carlson School become one of the top business schools in the world, and your continued support, I know, will help us be even better. For those of you who've given in the past and those who plan to give in the future, a big, big, big thank you. Today, we have a very special fireside chat showcasing top leadership from the University of Minnesota's basketball teams. We're joined by Lindsay Whalen and Ben Johnson, head coaches of the women's and men's teams, with our special guest moderator, Leah Olsen. Lindsay has been head coach of the women's team since 2018 and is one of the most decorated players in women's basketball history. During her career as a player, she won 2 world championships, 2 gold Olympic medals, and 4 WNBA championships. So isn't that amazing? She's also played for the Minnesota Lynx, the Connecticut Suns, and she still holds many career records from her time playing with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Ben has been head coach of the men's team since this past March and will surely be leading the Gophers to the Final Four this next year. We've got high hopes for you, Ben. Ben was an assistant coach for several major college programs the past few years, including Minnesota, before taking over the program after the departure of Richard Pitino. Ben was also a player in his college years, beginning at Northwestern and then graduating right here at Minnesota. Leah Olsen, our moderator, was also a former player for the women's basketball team and is now a sports journalist, where she has covered the WNBA for ESPN and reported for several teams. Everyone, please welcome Lindsay, Ben, and Leah. Over to you, Leah.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We are absolutely thrilled to be here with you, and happy September as everyone gets rolling back into school and the fair is over and Gopher football is kicked off and all of those good things. So we're thrilled to be here with you today, and I can't think of a better way to kick it off than with these two phenomenal coaches, Ben Johnson and Lindsay Whalen. And so I thought we could just start it out by getting to know you two just a little bit more. We know the resumes pretty well, but I think what to me is really cool about you two is that we have two coaches that are really cemented into this community, and not only are going to be and are great basketball coaches, but have a real commitment to the university and to our community. And I think for the first time since I've been around Gopher basketball, we have this on both sides. So it's very cool to have both Ben and Lindsay. So Ben, I'm going to kick it off with you. I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit about your days at De La Salle. I know you won a couple of championships there, and that's just kind of such a storied high school. And so if you could tell us a little bit about what that was like to play for a program like that, and maybe what you've learned from that you might take with you to the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a privilege and an honor to be here today with everybody. So I'll definitely want to start off by saying that. But no, for me, De La Salle kind of made me who I am today. I credit a lot of that to, just the makeup of that high school, whether that's within the athletic department with coaches that I play for, or with teachers that honestly pushed me far beyond what I thought I could do as a student. I wasn't the greatest student growing up. I didn't understand, I guess, the value, of an education. I mean, I knew it was important, but as far as being able to push myself in the classroom, that De La Salle really got that out of me. And it added value and meaning to, what an education was all about. And that was important. And I think just the value system that it brought up, I think the camaraderie within athletics, you kind of touched on it. There has been a lot of success on a lot of different fronts at De La Salle with, football, men's and women's basketball specifically. And so, when I went there, it was to be pushed athletically, and it was to be put in a scene where I thought I could be able to use my talents and hopefully one day become a Division I athlete. And so, with that, I give a lot of credit. Like I said, a lot of the things that I've carried with me to this day in coaching stem from what I learned at De La Salle. And I give a lot of credit to those people at that university or at that high school and in that community. And I think it's rare that, I still have lasting friendships to this day from people that I graduated with or people that were there at the same time I was. And so it's always cool and special for me to honor them and to look back at my times in high school and look back with some good, fond memories.
Yeah, that's one thing I know from covering the state tournaments of the De La Salle folks. You guys stick together and you have a great alumni group that seems to forever be connected. So it'll be kind of fun to see how you kind of weave that into your program over there. Lindsay, you have had like that really amazing storied career. We know it's all started in Hutchinson, Minnesota. And then when you come over to the Gophers, we know all of the work that you did there and how you brought the fans to Williams Arena to watch women's basketball. What was it like for you then to have the opportunity to play your professional career here in Minnesota, which doesn't really happen a lot for most athletes?
Yeah, well, great to see everybody. Thank you for having me on, and it's great to be here. It's awesome driving into campus for the first day of school. There's just nothing like it, first day of classes. So thrilled to be on with everybody. So I've been able to play here in my home state for the majority of my career, and so I think growing up in Hutchinson, about an hour and 15 minutes straight west of campus, I grew up coming to Gopher games and watching on TV and just dreaming of being a Gopher, playing for my home state, and it worked out. To be able to play here, to play in front of my family, that they could come to every game. It was great. They got to share so many moments that they probably wouldn't have been able to if I would have gone somewhere else. And so, then I get drafted to Connecticut and go out there for 6 years, and then wind up back home and play here for 9 years. So to me, I carry a lot of pride for the state of Minnesota, because I feel like a lot of times in sports, I guess that's probably mostly where I have a chip on my shoulder that I feel like we can do it, we can be successful. Mm-hmm. And I feel like so many times growing up, watching games on TV, when I was here at the U, when I first got to the Lynx, that we were overlooked and not necessarily respected. And so I feel like I love the state. I love being a Minnesotan and being from here. And so I just have always wanted to carry myself with that pride, that sense of pride. And fortunately, I still get to come to work every day at the U of M now as a coach. And so I carry that same mentality every day that, every day, what's the challenge that we can overcome, and how can we get better, and how can we continue to put Minnesota on the map, whether it's women's basketball, men's basketball. It's just, for me, I have a lot of that, sense of pride that's carried me through a lot of times throughout my career, and fortunate I have been able to spend so much of it here at Minnesota.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And I'm sure that adds some extra pressure on your plate as well. Ben, since you've been here in March, as you became the head coach, what have you felt like, the one thing we always hear about is people want you to recruit Minnesota kids. And so what does that look like for you? You've already done some of that early on as your time as head coach. Tell us about what that process is and kind of why that is so important to everyone here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think for me and for our staff, the blueprint to success normally, especially in this league and at this level, is in your backyard. And I think that's one of the things that's very intriguing about this job is, over the years, dating back to the mid 90s, Minnesota has had a ton of success with developing and having high level Division I men's basketball players. And, Lindsay will tell you, recruiting is the most important thing, but it's also probably the hardest thing. And a way to kind of, hopefully make it a little easier is where you can just go in your backyard and be able to, develop and find talent and hopefully lead them to the university. So for us, it is important. I think, just going back to my experience as a kid growing up, this is the program you followed. Up until this year, it was the only Division I basketball program in the state. And so, if you're a basketball player, you followed Gopher men's basketball, and you grew up paying attention and watching. And so it's our goal to bring that excitement back, bring that winning back, bring that tradition back, so that these young kids grow up with dreams and aspirations of putting on the maroon and gold. And I think that there comes with that a big sense of pride. I think there comes a feeling of, want to. And that drive is authentic and it's real. And, at this level, it's hard to win. And you got to have people that are 2 feet in, and people that, bleed it, and people that respect it and want to carry on that tradition. I don't think there's anybody that does it probably better than people that have kind of grown up watching it and following it and have different relationship and ties to it. So, it's always our goal every year to try to attract the right ones, the ones that fit our program and fit our culture and can help us win. And that'll be, priority from here on out.
Lindsay, when you talk about recruiting and local, you have a great group coming in 2022. How do you connect in with the local kids, and how do you build on that? And I know that's something you've done here in your first few years.
Well, I think a huge thing is time, and how much, time and effort, as much as you can, how much between the rules and everything, are we in the gyms, and are we getting to know people? And I think that's been a big thing for us, especially these first few years. Obviously, COVID, we couldn't be out recruiting, but you adjust and you figure out this wonderful world of Zoom and everything. But it's about, I think it's just a lot of time that you put in, effort, understanding that, like Ben said, the same goes on the women's and girls side as well. From the state of Minnesota, we know we have some really great talent in the state. And so I think it's just your focus, and it's the amount of time and effort and energy that you spend, and it has to be a priority. And so it, for us, it was just showing the commitment to our home state, and just understanding that also at the same time it was going to take time. wasn't going to happen overnight. And, Ben has done a tremendous job in the time that he's been here, but it's also, it takes time, like anything great, it takes time to build. And, I think continuing, like I said, just the time and effort and being in the gyms to continue to bring along great young women to be a part of our program.
So for both of you coming into your jobs, being a head coach was brand new. And Ben, I'm curious to hear, like, who are some of the mentors and people that, as you build your philosophy around coaching, where will you be kind of taking those pieces from, and who do you think you've learned the most from?
It's a really good question. I'm a stealer, so I steal a lot from a lot of people. I've been blessed to work with a lot of really successful head coaches that have done it for a long time. But not only that, I'm not a guy that doesn't shy away from asking even competitors questions, and that's one thing that's been great about our league is, even though we go heads up. And it's survival of the fittest. A lot of these guys have reached out, and I've been able to pick their brains, guys that have been doing it for a long time at a high level. And, a guy like Tom Izzo at Michigan State, who recruited me and, developed actually a lot of kind of my thought process, because, how I was coached in high school, and the coach that I became a GA for my first year in coaching were all Michigan State guys. And so, kind of modeling him and how he does it. I know obviously how he recruits and his style and his tenacity because he recruited me. So I've always kind of followed closely with his program and how they do things, not only on the court, but off the court, with alumni and with tradition and that family piece. Matt Painter's been another guy at Purdue who, is kind of similar to me, a former player at the university and an Indiana guy, but has built that program with in-state kids that do the right things and play the right way and add that right culture piece. So I think you look at, how Purdue has done it over time. As far as just day to day, a guy that I worked for 4 years who I think is a superstar is Ben Jacobson at Northern Iowa. I think the other piece too that is good for me is we probably have more similarities personality wise than not. And I think it's always good when there's somebody that kind of moves and acts like you, to be able to replicate that. But just his philosophy on coaching, on recruiting, on building a program is something that I obviously have stolen a lot from. And so I think it's reading as much as you can. It's picking the brains of people that you come in contact with, and not being afraid to ask questions, because I know I don't have all the answers, and there's a lot of people that have been doing it a lot longer than me that have had some success. So just try to be the sponge and learn and grow as much as I can.
So Ben, while we're still on you, who have you selected, and how did you select your coaching staff, and how has that been for you now that you are the top guy, you're the head coach, that people are coming to you to ask all the questions and they want all the answers from you, Ben?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest adjustment is, as an assistant, you have a million suggestions and they're all perfect and they all make sense. And then you're wondering why you're not doing every single one of them. And then as a head coach, you realize that it's all on you, and every single decision affects the program, whether it's small, medium, or large. But I have a great staff, and there are guys that really fit my vision and fit my personality, that have similarities and differences from me, because I think that's important, that everybody kind of brings something new and different to the table. So I've been extremely lucky with my staff of guys that, understand the league, understand how we're trying to recruit and the type of student athletes that we want to bring here to Minnesota, and understand the type of players that help us win. One of them being my former high school coach, which is unique in that, but also unique in the fact that he's already been here. He was an assistant for Clem Haskins in the 90s. And so he understands the landscape of the university. Again, he understands the tradition. He was here when, there was success, and he's done the recruiting piece. And he has a passion for the university and for Gopher basketball. And then, my other two guys are guys that were itching and to be at this level, and I think are going to be future head coaches sooner than later. And so I just try to surround myself with people that are smart, that are driven, that want more, and that's more from more winning. That's more from their standpoint of becoming a head coach, and that are going to do it the right way, so that we all can at night rest our head and understand that we're doing things the way that they should be done, and that's a winning way as well.
And Lindsay, as you build on your coaching philosophy, and I remember watching you as a Lynx, and you seemed like you and Coach Reeve had such a tight connection, and you were learning a lot from her. And then as you made that transition from being a player to being a coach all at the same time, which I'm sure was an interesting whirlwind for you, how did you then kind of take things maybe from Coach Reeve or different coaches to build your own philosophy?
Like Ben said, it's been a lot of fun and interesting to learn from some of the best coaches. I've been very fortunate, and that Coach Mike Tebow, he drafted me to Connecticut, and he's the all-time winningest coach in the WNBA. And then coming back here to play for Coach Reeve, she's got the all-time winningest percentage and the most championships. And then the other coach I got to learn from was he's out in Connecticut. I'm not sure if people have heard of him, but Coach Ariyama. So that was a joke. So learning from Gino. So I've been around some really successful coaches and successful players. And so I think watching as a player, kind of watching like who's the best and how can I challenge myself to get to be the best? What do I have to do? How do they carry themselves? What are their values as a player? And the same goes in coaching. And so being able to witness success at the highest level on the court of different coaches, the same applies as, well, if this is how it's done at the highest level and it's created a lot of success, then that's what I want to do for this program, for my program. And so I've been very fortunate to take, I guess, a little bit away from all of the coaches that I've been able to sit in those meeting rooms and watch breakdown video and put us through practices, different times when they challenge you, different times when it's maybe, an arm around the shoulder when you need it. And so being able to witness that every day for the last 15 years from coaches at a really high level I've been so fortunate to be able to be a part of those teams. And, I can't remember every single situation or every single, timeout and game situation from all of the coaches, but there's just a general sense of just doing things at a really high level, just consistently every day. And it's not like you're never going to make every shot. Every defensive assignment is never going to be perfect. No one is perfect, but it's doing everything that you can control, all of the things that you bring, doing that on a consistent basis every day to the best of your ability. And those are the best teams that I've been on. Those are the teams that have won championships. And those coaches, they demand that every day. And like I said, you're not going to run up play right every time. But it's understanding, correcting mistakes, and it's understanding, how to carry yourself in a championship manner every day. And so getting to witness that was awesome. And I hope to continue to bring that to the young women that are on our team now.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that transfer portal that seems to be so critical and important to college basketball right now. And Ben, maybe you can speak to it, because I think you've had to lean on it and will be leaning on it for a while. But what is the transfer portal? Why is it become so big in college basketball? And has it maybe some of the pros and cons of it and how it's impacted college basketball?
Yeah, so, basically for a number of years, I think dating all the way back to maybe the beginning of college basketball, players have been able to transfer. The biggest difference now is that there's basically no rules to transferring, and you can become immediately eligible to play. So that's been the game changer. For a guy like myself who's taken over a program, it kind of works two ways. So, going into it that, like in most cases with the coaching change, you're probably going to lose some players to transfer. And then at the same time is you're also going to be able to bring in players that can play right away that make this spot more attractive than if they were to have sat out. And so for me, you never want to totally reboot, but the positive is now you'll be able to reboot with players that fit exactly how you want to play. They fit your locker room, they fit your culture. And so that's one thing that we've been really excited about was, normally it takes probably year 3 to get quote unquote your own guys in place. Whereas now from year 1, every single person on our roster is somebody that I know wants to be here because I recruited them, or the 2 holdovers that stayed are staying for the right reasons. And so we're able to, build that right away from day 1 and not have to wait till year 3. And so now we can really focus on continuing to upgrade that and upgrade our talent and upgrade our players. So it's something that's going to be here to stay. It's that we're all going to have to deal with. You got to find ways to live in it. I don't think any coach wants to every single year look at half their roster through the portal, because then that's constant turnover. But what it does do is inevitably in college basketball, kids are going to leave, and now you're able to kind of hopefully sustain or improve a level of success if you have somebody leave, which they're more than capable of doing. And so it's something our staff will now continue to just kind of monitor, especially in the spring. And it's a little bit like NBA free agency, when you just try to see what's out there and see if there's a fit. And if it works, and try to improve your roster every year as best you can.
Lindsay, what would you say about how you've been able to utilize the transfer portal? And is it something that like coaches talk about on a daily basis, you and your coaching staff, or is it something that's really just talked about periodically as you're bringing players in?
Well, I think that, for us, it's kind of added a little bit of a recruiting period where at the end of season, say late March, April, some of May, that there is more activity. And so you have to stay on it. You have to monitor. I don't think it's something that we necessarily talk about often or a lot until the seasons, get closer to the end. But it's, like Ben said, it's a reality. It's, players have been able to transfer for years, and now we're kind of in a new era. And so you have to be on top of it. You have to understand that it's not going away. But at the same time, I think, when we have somebody, sign up to play Gopher women's basketball, that's for us what I want to enter into as far as relationship with a recruit and their family is it's 4 years to play here. But it's you hope to be a part of that person's life for the rest of their life. And to me, that's building, a family and culture. And I understand that it's not going to work out for every single player, but I think that you have to go into it with that mentality that we're in this together and we're going to work through problems arise. Families have problems, families have issues arise. Communication is vital. And that's something that I've for sure learned throughout my first few years coaching. And so I realized that it's out there, but to me, that's why going through the recruiting process when players are coming through during their high school time, it's so important to get to know them as people and to get to know them to where this is a right fit on both ends, on both sides, because nobody you don't go into a relationship with a recruiter, their family, and hope it's going to be a year and a half. I mean, you want to be a part of their lives for the rest of their lives, and I think that that's something that's on us as coaches, on us as a program, as staff, to establish those relationships. So when people come to this program, they know it's the right fit. And there are going to be your situations where there are transfers. I'm not naive to that. So I think there's a way that you can do both. And I think it just takes time, effort, relationship building to make it work. Because like I said, it is a big family. We go from here through hopefully April. We're together nearly every day. And there's going to be times where everything is great and we're winning games and shots are falling and we're playing great defense. And there's going to be times when it's not. And so who are you as a person during that time? Who are we as coaches during that time? Are we going to work together to solve whatever it is? And the great teams do that. They just do. The great teams, every season I've been a part of, there's a 3-game losing streak and there's a time when people are unhappy. It just happens. It's the teams that work together to correct the mistakes and problem solve together are the teams that are great. And so I think going into into the recruiting process, you have to go in with that mentality. And otherwise, the transfer portal is going to be almost a daily conversation, but it's something that I think is something that we can, as much as you can, control by the effort that you put into your program.
I think when most people think of college basketball, you think of recruiting. Just that does seem to be such a difficult thing to do, but probably one of the most impactful and powerful things for your program. What do you actually do in recruiting? And I'm curious, as you're connecting with 17-year-old men, young men who you're trying to convince that this is a great space for them. What does it look like up close? I think most of the world really doesn't know what being recruited is actually like.
It's a lot. The thing I've learned is it's not an exact science by any means. So each kid, each family, at least in my opinion, is recruited different. You have a model of maybe the type of player and the type of characteristics you want on and off the floor. But as far as the actual process, it's forever changing. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of text messages. It's making sure the school's social media is up to par and that there's good videos. Just make sure you have an Instagram presence and kids are seeing your Instagram, your videos, your message. So it's an everyday thing. And I think now with just the technology that we have, so much of it has turned into, making sure your social media outlets are good, because it's a great way for families and kids to get an inside look at your program in real time. Whether that's, during a practice or individual workout, highlights from the previous season, facilities, campus. It's a way for people to be able to touch you that aren't local. And that's huge. And then it's just getting creative. It's trying to find ways that can make you stand out. And honestly, it's like a product. You got to have a product that pops and that separates yourself from the other high level competitors. And for us right now, we're not a top 25 program. So finding ways to beat a top 25 team. A Hall of Fame type coaches, and you got to think outside the box. You got to, capture 17 to 18-year-olds' imagination, and at the same time get their confidence that you're the right guy and you're the right school. So, it's forever changing and growing. You figure out how to learn TikTok and Instagram real quick and what they like and what's cool to them. So when you're talking to them, you don't sound like ancient. And at the same time, make your program seem like it's on the cutting edge. And, it's odd what goes into it. And it's even odder what kids like and don't like from, we got 2 quick stories. One was we're getting new uniforms next year. And so that is like the best thing to all these kids. And that's all they want to talk about is like the colors, the style. And then, you get a kid on an official visit, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to show off the city. You talk about all the great restaurants that we have, and we're going to eat at this top-notch places. And we had one kid that loved Italian food. And so we're looking through, okay, we got to find the best Italian spot. It's going to be great, this and that. And it come to find out the highlight of his trip was going to the Olive Garden. And not that there's anything wrong with Olive Garden, but it's like you realize quickly that, what they like is way more important and trumps what you might like or what you think would show good. And so it's a reality check that you got to stay relevant in these kids' mind and what's important to them now, because I think they all live in the now. And it's realizing that it's not about us in a lot of ways, it's about them and what makes them happy and excited about your program.
Now, Lindsay, does that mean that you're up on TikTok, and do you have some TikTok videos that you're doing to bring your recruits in that I should be watching?
Well, I just downloaded it just now as Ben was talking. So I've downloaded TikTok, so I'm on. Yeah, it's I leave that to some of our assistant coaches and players to do the TikToks. And so yeah, I'm more, I'm old school. I'm Instagram, Twitter. And so I'm throwback to all that, but no, it's definitely, you want to, we had before the football game, we had a nice, tailgate, like everybody does before heading over to the game against Ohio State. And we talked about as a staff, making sure we have our TikTok station and our TikTok camera up. So that was maybe the most popular station. It was, it beat out the hamburgers and hot dogs. But so yeah, we try to stay up to date. And, at the same time, you might come into practice someday and say, something that you think is cool, and, players just kind of give you a hard time or roll your eyes. So you gotta, you gotta stay hip, but not too hip.
Don't go overboard with that. Yes. So last question before we'll then open it up. The athletic facility over at the University of Minnesota, the Athletes Village, is so impressive. And that has to be, on top of your amazing TikToks, that has to be the highlight, right? What is it like showing off that space to the young kids? And Lindsay, you could kick us off.
Well, it's definitely, and I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but it's definitely an upgrade than when me and Ben went to school here. So I had a great college experience, don't get me wrong, but we would practice, no practice facility. So where I'm sitting right now at the office was, I think what would have been the track. And so we would practice at Williams, and the days we lifted, we would all go grab our winter jackets, and sometimes grab our winter jackets, sometimes not, run across to the hockey arena to Mariucci to lift. And, we wonder why we were all sick with colds the entire winter from, practicing and then running across to lift. So no, it's definitely, I've done a great job. And this is state of the art facility. We have our student athletes have, with the exception of their classes on campus, which thankfully they're able to, for the most part, be in in-person learning again, and libraries are on campus. I mean, the nutrition center is here, the weight room is here, the practice facilities here. There's different, leadership and academic advising opportunities. It's all right in one building for them. And so to me, that's been something that's really, you talk about, we've talked a lot about recruiting today, and that's a huge advantage for us, is just to have this wonderful facility. And like I said, it's, for me and Ben, it's like, yeah, we walked uphill both ways to, that kind of mentality, how we had it compared to how our young student athletes have it now. But you always want to see that. You always want to see things improve and be better for our student athletes, and hopefully, during their time and during my time, you leave it better than you found it. And so it's been awesome. It's a great tool, no question. And it's fun to come in here every day. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Amy, did we have some questions that we wanted to open up to?
Yes, we have lots of questions. So I'm going to just get started and we'll try to get through as many as we can. The first question is, what challenges are our student athletes facing now that you didn't face as a student athlete?
I think
Go ahead, Ben.
I think the first one for me that jumps off is social media. Yeah, I know when I was playing, there was like maybe one, well, the message board sites, and you had to like go out of your way to get on there, and thankfully it was nothing I really got caught up on, but you'd have to go out of your way to kind of search it and go find it, and that's what the positive and negatives of what people were saying. And I think now that's, at least for men, has been a game changer. You get the constant feedback, whether that's positive or negative, right away in real time. And so to be able to balance that is tough for anybody. I talk to our guys all the time about this, the pressures and expectations of social media and that life, and how that life is portrayed, and the image that it's supposed to be, in my opinion, isn't real. And I think you get caught up in the pressures of that, and you get hit with that, and we all love the praise. You have a great game, and everyone loves the 200 retweets and likes and comments, but as we all know, we're human, and it takes that one out of 200 that can get you flipped. And I think that's a lot for somebody that's 18 to 22 to handle on the big stage. And so I think it's important, especially now when you talk about the mental health part of it, and that's the new topic, and that's something that our guys have dealt with, and that's just the reality of it. So I think it's just educating guys on the power of social media, and to realize that that's not necessarily the end all be all.
Thought that was great answer.
Yeah.
There's no question. There's no question. We talk a lot about too, as much as you can, because I agree. I think that from when Ben and I played, 35, 40 years ago, and now when it's and it was later on in my professional career when Twitter and Instagram and things like this came about. But I think for me, at a certain point of your season, you have to know your circle, your bubble. You really have to, and you have to understand that a lot of people who are out there aren't necessarily in favor of your best interests. And so I think as much as you can, I know it's hard to do, blocking that out, like Ben said, and understanding that your coaches, your teammates, your family, as much as you can, listen to them rather than those outside sources, because they haven't been through the ups and downs with you as the people who are close to you have been. They might have only watched for 2 minutes of the game, and then they're posting something, and it's just so to me, that's something that our young women definitely have to navigate as well.
Great, thank you. Wade is asking, what is your biggest learning in leadership in the past 90 days?
Past 90 days. You want me to take this one, Ben?
Yeah, you might go. Feel free. Go first.
I got it. I think. Well, I think so. In the last 90 days, so we're at first week of September here. We weren't able to recruit in person until June 1st of this year. And so recruiting was essentially all on Zoom or FaceTime, or it was all virtual. And so coming back this year, starting June 1st, we're having people on campus, and we're also practicing. And so I think big thing about, for me, like leadership wise is you have to have the time and you have to have energy to give to all these different areas. So we went from not having any in person to now full going out and recruiting in July. And so I think making time and making some decisions on being able to balance what is best for continuing to recruit, what's best for your team. And so what's best for, and having that balance, and I think when there's different pulls at people, one thing I learned early on in my career is it's okay to say no. Saying no to something. Now there's certain things that we have to do. It's part of our jobs. But as you start to, get into your career, and I know there's a lot of really successful people and future successful people on this call, as you start to get out into your career and the more successful you get, there's more pulls at your time. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no just for yourself. But saying no to something else is maybe saying yes to your family, saying yes to you. And so if you're in a leadership role, if you're not at 100%, then you're not going to be able to give everything you can to your team. And so I think making decisions that, okay, yes, there's going to be, now we've kind of gone back full go into everything. I think making decisions and sometimes having to make hard decisions, but just whatever's, for the best of your team is something that you have to do. But that was a big thing I learned is saying no is a lot of times saying yes to yourself or yes to your family.
Yeah, no, I definitely echo that. I think for me, in these last 90 days, being a first-time head coach, that's really stood out is you prepare for this opportunity, and you can have all the notes and the packets and the coaching books and all that you want, but it's almost like being a parent. Like, you don't know what it's like to be a parent until you have that first kid. And there's like no instruction manual, and every day is different. So you might have this great 30-day plan. You might as well tear that plan up, because at the end of the day, you're going to be hit with stuff every single day that's going to like throw that thing off kilter. And if you're married to that, you can become a nervous wreck over time because it's not looking or going a certain way. So I think, being able to be adapting and to understand that it's not always going to be a perfect road, that every day there's going to be something that you're going to have to solve that's going to throw you off track potentially. And you got to be able to adjust. I think, being able to adjust on the fly and adapt, in my opinion, for me, has been huge, because it's real. And like I said, especially when you're dealing with, the age group that we are, different things affect them. And you got to be able to manage that and maneuver that. And then with your staff, you have a staff that has family and they have needs, and you want to be able to be, understanding of that. And you want to, at the same time, be, demanding in the workplace. So being able to lead those staff members and get them to understand what you're about, all of that is what, honestly is kind of fascinating, intriguing to me. But at the same time, it's you got to be flexible and willing to adapt and divert and as they said during quarantine, be able to pivot.
We are getting a question asking you to think a little bit ahead about the Big Ten season here. So what are your thoughts on this year's season or teams and how they will do in the Big Ten play? What are one or two things you need to do very well to succeed both in the short and long term?
Well, I know for us, right now, I'm trying not to think about it. I'm trying to have good days, to be honest with you, because it's scary. You look at that schedule, it's scary, but it's fun at the same time. I say that half joking. I think for us to be successful, we got to worry about ourselves to start, for sure. We got to build our confidence and build our foundation in the non-conference schedule. We've got to be able to just get a little bit better every day and be really good at the things that we emphasize on both sides of the ball. Because, in reality, I have two guys on my roster right now that have played high major basketball. And so there's going to be a little bit of learning curve. We have some good, talented players that get it, but it is a little different, at this level consistently when you're talking about a 20-game schedule. And so I just really emphasize to our guys, you know what the schedule is, you know what's coming up, but you got to worry about living in the now and worry about today and getting right today and worrying about, this next workout we have or this next practice. I think if you do that, the results kind of take care of themselves and the growth hopefully takes care of themselves. But, it's a building process, and today is day one for us. And so we're just going to really get consumed with that and worry about ourselves and making sure that we're getting right for when we open up play.
Yeah, our schedule, I think, comes out later this week, maybe early next week, with our non-conference and our Big Ten schedule. And there's no question, last year we had 4 teams in the Sweet 16 from the Big Ten. And so it's a great basketball conference, men and women. And so something we talked about with our team is, and we used to do this with the Lynx, we never talked about championships. We never talked about those things. We talked about today. How can we measure today? What can we do? What do you do really well that you can bring on a consistent basis every day as an individual? And how can we build our foundation as a team? And individually, how can you build your personal foundation that you're going to continue to improve upon and get better at? And so we have on our program, we operate under the gold standard. And so it's being a great teammate, outworking our opponents, being a leader on the court, in the classroom, in the community, and then doing everything with discipline. And so something that we did today was we wrote down, several different ways that we could measure that. Like, how can we measure those things? And so throughout these, we have, 9 weeks of practice. And I got the same thing, Ben, where it's like, here's week 1, here's what I want to have in, here's what we got to do, here's what we got to work on. And having that plan is great. I think it makes you feel a little less overwhelmed on the year, but then understanding that it's what you do now. We used to catch teams with the Lynx all the time. We'd start out our years, one year we were 13-0. And it wasn't because we did anything flashy in training camp, but we just got to work every day. We worked on just being a little bit better every day. And it sounds so simple, almost too simple, but when you're together for the next 8-9 months, that's what you have to do. That's how you have to approach it. And the great ones, the greatest players, the greatest teams are just consistent in their work every single day and just get 1% better is something that's kind of being thrown around a lot right now. And so finding ways that we can measure that and not lying to ourselves when there's days we didn't get better, and then understanding that it is such a process. And the great ones, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, they're so consistent in their work every single day. That's what makes them great. And, I got one Kobe Bryant story. Is that okay, Leah? Are we going over time? So one of the greatest of all time, right? So we're at the Olympics getting ready to play in London, and we fly through the night and we get to kind of a preseason tournament in Manchester, England. And we went and practiced. Gino had us practicing, I think 3 hours that day. The men's team did not have practice. And so we were leaving and they were ordering pizzas and just kind of hanging out and whatnot. And that was an all-time great team too. The one player who showed up during their practice time to shoot probably 500 shots on his own was Kobe Bryant. He had won, to that point of his career, I think a few gold medals, for sure 3 championships with the Lakers. He's already in the conversation as, top 5 player of all time. The one guy who showed up was Kobe Bryant, because it's an everyday thing. And so I think the more that us as coaches and the more that we can focus on that, there's it's not like a secret recipe to being great and having that success. You just got to be willing to put the work in.
Well, I think that is a great way to end, and we are wrapping up on our time here. So Cherie, I'm going to turn it back over to you and thank everyone for their time.
Thank you, Lindsay, Ben, Leah. It's been just fascinating listening to you as you talk about how you develop leaders on the court, on the classroom, and in the community. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your insights. I want you to know that at the Carlson School, we are so proud of our student athletes. You may know our former Gopher men's basketball player, Andre Hollins, is back at the Carlson School doing his MBA. And I heard from Lindsay earlier that our women's basketball team has a GPA of 3.6, top 25 in the country, and the only Big Ten team to be in that spot. So truly, you're developing student athletes, and you don't forget that they're students first. So thank you for all that you do to help them. And of course, a big thank you to our audience for joining us.